Hey everybody, how's it going? Alex here, and today I'm going to show you how to create a streak counting system using Airtable and make.com. First of all, I'm going to show you a quick demo of how the whole system works. Next, we're going to go through the database design. Following that, we're going to take a look at how the make scenario is set up, and then we're going to do another demo and see how the whole thing operates. So yeah, here we go. Let's take a look at this demo. I have my submissions kind of almost pre-filled and ready to go. I'm going to be triggering them via this simulate submission button, simulating a submission. I don't want to be filling out forms right now just to test this. And I also have my users here with their current streak, which I will just remove right now. Let me put myself down here in the corner. So yeah, let's do this. We have submission 1. Let's try that for our user Alex, and this should now print 1 over here. Perfect. Next thing we need to do is we need to naturally copy Alex down and then click on the submission. So this is basically the next day. Our streaks are being counted based on date, just as a side note there. So now this should say 2. Perfect. Let's see another one. So this is Alex again, submitting on the following day. So that now should say 3 over here. Yep. And now let's see how it will restart the counter. So we take Alex again, and this should now say 1. Perfect. And from there, Alex, and this now should say 2. Perfect. So we have one streak of 3 submissions on consecutive day on the 15th, 16th, 17th. Then we skipped a day, and the next submission was on the 19th, and following that it was on the 20th. So yeah, that's basically the demo. Let's take a look at the database and how that's designed. So picking up from where we left off, we have our users table, which is basically made up of a name column, submissions, which is linked to the submissions, a current streak column, which basically is just a text field, and the record ID field, which is necessary for our make integration further down the line. It's very simple. It's just a formula field with the record ID function being printed in there. Next we have submission. Again, no hidden fields. We have just the name of the submission, pure text field. We have our checkbox just to trigger the simulation for the purposes of the demo. And then we have date, which is what we want to go by in terms of counting our streak. And then we also have yesterday. Yesterday is an important part of this puzzle, and this formula just basically takes the function of date add, puts date in the required date time part of the function, -1, and then in terms of days. So that basically gives me yesterday's date. It doesn't really matter what the formatting of these are. I mean, this is ISO, and this is like European, I think. So yeah, doesn't really matter. Let's keep moving. Next, we have our link to users, which is basically linking back to the users table. Then we have a lookup of the record ID from the user. And then I take it a slight step further because of previous experience. I've noticed that sometimes Airtable's API misbehaves when you try to filter by a lookup field versus actually having that lookup, especially record ID lookup, within a separate concatenated formula field, like so. The next thing that we have to do is basically take a look at make and how to set up the automation. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at how to set up this whole automation side on Make, using Make. So first of all, we have to deal with the trigger. Let's take a look at that. We have automation 1 set up, and the trigger here is on the table of submissions. When submission is ticked, then it will run a quick script. So the script in itself basically is just this boilerplate code that you can see here. Then we need to put in two things. We need to put in our webhook URL from Make, that Make will provide. And then we have our record ID over here. That is just basically a hard-coded value. And then we have to map our record ID value from here, just basically pressing on this. So to demonstrate this better, all you have to do is just jump in here, say record ID value, and choose the record ID. And that's all you have to do in Airtable. Now moving on to Make. So in Make we have this fairly simple scenario. There's not a lot of things going on. Let me just give you a quick rundown. So the first three modules over here, they deal with the trigger. The webhook payload comes in, the JSON parser parses that payload so that then we can essentially get the submission record ID. So this part is super straightforward. Next, we have this part, these three modules, that the role in this automation is that they determine whether this is the beginning of a new streak or it's a continuation of an already existing streak. So the way that this is set up is the following. We have streak, DB, submission. The sorting is going by date in direction descending. The formula here is blank, but technically you could probably just maybe filter it by the username, but in this existing demo I haven't done that. The next thing is a filter, where I'm basically filtering the search results, the search bundles that come from here by the fact that the user ID from number 23 from that search is the user record ID from the submission earlier. Then we have the date from this search, because remember it's going in descending order, so it will give you the newest one, and then it will compare that to yesterday of the previous day of that submission that you've just triggered. The next thing that we need to do is set a variable in here. Now I've just named it B, and the variable value is 1. Next, numeric aggregator, which basically sums up, as you can see the aggregate function is sums up all of these ones that it keeps getting from here. Because the only time that this one will be available is if this bundle passes this filter. So from there we have a router, and we have two let's say it's like a crossroad. First of all, we have, if the result of number 24 is 0, that means that this is a beginning of a new streak. And what we do here, we say yet another variable name. It can be anything. We take the result, then use the plus math operator +1, and then we have we basically update the record of the user based on number 3 record ID, and then we just print in what we've gotten here. This can probably be done a little bit more in a more elegant way. For instance, you don't really need this variable, but I like variables. So yeah, that's what happens here. We just basically print that. But another way that you could possibly do this would be something like this. I'm just going to copy this and just paste it straight in here like that. And I'm basically achieving exactly the same thing. Only that I'm one less module. I'm using one less module. Now, in the case of a continuation of a streak, and this is probably the most crucial part of this operation, is what do you do when you have when you're counting a continued streak? So it's this path over here, down here. We're just basically taking that result and we're saying not equal to 0, so there's more than 1. Then we kind of do the same thing where we're searching through the submissions, but this time we have the user record ID field. First we begin with an AND clause. So both of these arguments, this one over here, separated by a comma, and then this one over here, have to be true. So from there, the arguments are the user record ID must equal to the user record ID of number 3 of this original triggered module. The next thing is the date, and again we're going by date descending, but the date of the submission must be equal or less than the date of the original triggered submission. And then we have my favorite variables. So here, first of all, we have one variable that parses this date, 43, from here, and I've set it to parse it like so, because in my results, this is how it seems to be, Make seems to be interpreting my dates, which is a little bit odd, but because usually they're interpreted like this. It's probably because I'm not using a time that it does this, I suspect, but yeah, that's that. Next, we have a very similar thing where we're parsing the date of number 3, of the module number 3, so this original triggered submission. Then what we do is we have this nice little formula that basically tells us how many days difference we have. Feel free to just copy paste this, and then basically here what we have is 46 minus 45, so the date of the original submission, the one that was triggered, minus the date that is being run through the search user submissions, and it just basically gives us the difference in days. And the next thing is the most crucial part. It's this little filter where basically we have this comparison of number 47, which is the difference in days, must equal to the bundle order position of this submission. Essentially, because this is going in a descending order, right? It's going from newest to oldest. If there is a continued streak, that bundle order position will match the difference in days from the original date, from the most recent submission. From there, what we do have is again the same mentality of adding a 1 to a variable, and then just counting these ones. So like so, basically. The source module being the search for user submissions, then the aggregate function is sum, and then you're just adding these 48s as they come, right? The next thing and final module is current streak +1. And just updating users just like we did over here. So yeah, that's basically it in terms of the automation. There's not really much to it. Let's take a look at how this all runs together. So I'm just gonna move myself a little bit over there. Run once, data, and let's just create another submission number 6. This is gonna be a continuation of a streak, so let's just put 21st of Jan, Alex again, and we are expecting number 3 over here. Here we go. So what just happened? The record got triggered here in the beginning, as I was expecting. Then here we have a result of being 1, so there's more than one pre-existing submission. That means that the scenario takes this bottom path, and yeah, basically then it amount the amount of consecutive streaks based on the amount of submissions from that particular user. And basically that's that. Thanks guys, hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.